Hello and welcome to Encore, the arts and culture show here on France 24. Coming up in our weekly music roundup, we hear about a series of remastered classics from Led Zeppelin and the plagiarism accusations that have sprung up with them. We've also got new material from Neil Young. The lo-fi rocker has embraced the 21st century in cahoots with Jack White. And festival season's kicked off here in Europe. We take a look at the cream of the crop, Barcelona's Primavera Festival. Now let's check in with our music critic, Mark Thompson. Hi Mark, thanks for being with us.
Hi.
Now, starting off with this huge news from Led Zeppelin. It's new releases, but as I gather, the content's not entirely new. Tell us more.
No, let's call it the remastering of these first three Led Zeppelin albums, Led Zeppelin 1, 2 and 3. It's actually out on June the 3rd, but last week in Paris, Jimmy Page, the guitarist and band's producer, held a listening party for the band's biggest fans. I went along. Here's what happened.
On October 19th, 1969, just 9 months after releasing their seminal debut record, Led Zeppelin performed here at the legendary Olympia Theatre in Paris. They would never look back. John Paul Jones, John Bonham, Jimmy Page, Robert Plant, these would become household names. Now, for the first time, fans can relive that experience of that show all those years ago.
The Led Zeppelin live album is among 3 newly remastered records set for release in June. It catches the band at their explosive best. Some lucky fans were invited back to the venue last week to hear the record ahead of time and see one of their idols in person.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jimmy Page. The music from the first album, Extra, the Olympia live show, is just so enthusiastic. I mean, it's really raw.
It's not the first time Page has revisited Led Zeppelin's early records. 20 years ago, he altered them for the then-thriving CD format. He says changes are constantly needed to keep up with how fast the industry is moving.
Today, if you're in the sort of music media, you almost need to reassess how your music is being heard almost every 5 years, it looks like, because now there are so many different ways that you can hear music.
But the upcoming new releases have hit a bump in the road. US psychedelic band Spirit is claiming Page stole one of their songs for the intro to what would become a signature track, Stairway to Heaven. Led Zeppelin toured with the band in the 1960s before the song was written. It's thought to have earned them over €400 million. Relations between Jimmy Page and his former bandmates are also on edge. Lead singer Robert Plant insists he has no intention of going back on tour with the group, which last played together in 2007.
Drummer John Bonham's tragic alcohol-related death in 1980 brought the band's career to a premature close, but their legend lives on. Fans, both young and old, still have a whole lot of love for this band that changed the face of rock and roll.
So that's a really nice move on the part of Jimmy Page, giving them this special preview. He must be pretty dedicated to his supporters.
What was really amazing was being in this auditorium with some real die-hard Led Zeppelin fans, and they were like hollering and clapping and shouting out like it was a real show, and all they were doing was watching these projections on screen. Although, as it said in the package, his relationship with his fellow bandmates is not really on best form. It's been a bit of a case of Page versus Plant in the press. Page clearly wanting to get the band back together, and Plant clearly not.
Well, the fans are obviously into it, but They were of the fan base that you're talking about there, these very serious fans. They're obviously useful to Led Zeppelin in more ways than one, because apparently Jimmy Page solicited their advice for this record.
So Jimmy Page was the band's producer as well as the guitarist, and every day after recording, he would take some back for his own collection. That wasn't enough. He was very thorough. What he did was go onto the internet forums and speak to these die-hard fans, and he wanted to get their opinions and also their bootlegs. Obviously, Led Zeppelin being Led Zeppelin, there are thousands of bootlegs online, and he wants to make sure that the records he was releasing now have never been heard like they have ever before.
Oh, well, so we're in for a treat then.
Yes, definitely so.
Now, we're going from one legendary rock group to a legendary rock singer, Neil Young. He's putting out a new record this week as well.